January, or does January mayor
November.
and council? Did I hear Andrew? I don't have the new list. I have to pull it up. Let me see if I can pull it up. Move that. Let's see.
Got 9.
Hey, Janet, this is Chip. Can you hear me?
I can, Chip, yes.
I'm trying to get on the video and I just can't seem to get on. And I am here.
I can see that you're here. What you might want to do, Chip, is go out and come back in to the meeting.
Leave it.
Yep, leave the meeting and then come back in, and sometimes that resolves the video issue.
All right, I'll give that a try.
Okay. Let's see. Oops, here it is. Glenn Dunnington. And I don't see him in yet. I can give him a call. Let's see. Just going to mute myself here for a second.
I'll be right back.
Okay, I think we have everybody here. So I will call the meeting to order. It is 6:01.
I think Chip's still on the attendee side.
Oh, he's okay. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Chip, I just promoted you. So you should accept that.
Oh,
So Chip, you are muted. You might have to hit your video. So we have 6:01 on Tuesday, January 25th, 2022. This is the Lewis Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. I do have an announcement basically about the agenda. There was an oversight on the agenda. Don Long has decided to resign from the committee, and therefore on the agenda, he was the chair of the committee, so we should have had on the agenda that we would nominate and vote on a new chairperson, and that was an oversight. So what I would propose is Bob and I talked and put the agenda together. He had talked with Don Long and we put the agenda together. So I can act as chair tonight, and we can schedule a special meeting to do a nomination and an appointment of the chair before the next meeting. We can do that in the next couple of weeks. Is that agreeable to all?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I'm hearing yes and nods. Great, thank you. And I apologize for that oversight. The other announcement I'll just make is that to welcome Glenn to the committee. We're happy to have you on board, and that the mayor has asked me to be the city staff liaison with the bicycle and pedestrian committee. So I will be joining you at each meeting as well. And I hope that's acceptable to everybody. Maybe not.
It's welcome, welcome.
We get to vote on that or what?
Yes.
Is that a motion?
Go ahead, John. I want to hear what you have to say.
Welcome aboard.
So with that all being said, I will move through the agenda, and this being my first official meeting, I'll ask Bob and John to help me out here, and Glenn, get your feet wet, jump in. Our first agenda item, item B1, is approval of the meeting minutes from our September 28th, 2021 meeting and our November 16th, 2021 meeting. I hope you've all had an opportunity to review those. And are there any comments?
Excuse me, but I don't have the agenda. When was that distributed, or do I need to go online for that?
It's generally online. It's online.
Okay.
So if you go under the City of Lewis website, Glenn, and go to meetings and agendas.
Okay.
Tell me when you got that.
So I'm at the bike and committee site now, so I need to go back to the home page, I guess.
Right, you want to go to meetings and agendas.
Agendas and minutes.
Yep.
Okay.
And then if you click on that, you should get a calendar.
Yep.
Click on January 25th. And you'll see the bicycle and pedestrian committee, and then click on that and you'll get the agenda.
Got it. Okay, folks, thanks. Sorry for the,
Sure. No worries.
No worries at all. And Glenn, just for the future too, once we elected the chairman, they'll tend to send around an agenda ahead of time. And you can contribute to it, and make suggestions to future agendas as well. So hopefully in the future, you'll be ready to help shape the agendas as well.
thanks, Andrew. Let's hope. Okay.
So is there any discussion regarding the meeting minutes for November 16th?
Not for me.
No?
I was unable to attend even on Zoom.
Okay.
I'm good.
Right, okay. So I think if there's no comments or changes, we can probably make a motion to do these together, but let me just see if there are any comments on the September 28th meeting minutes. Nothing? Okay. So
Looks good to me.
nothing? Okay, is there a
No, I'm good.
motion? Is there a
I make a
motion?
motion to approve the minutes.
Okay,
I second it.
thank you, John. Thank you, Chip. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me, one quick, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, because I'm not.
If you,
Box isn't turning yellow, so.
well, when you sit back in your chair, Bob, you fade out. So if you can stay up close to the microphone, we can hear you. The challenges of Zoom, right? Okay, so item C1 is old business. This is an update on the Delaware Bicycle Council grant for the proposed Lewis Loop Low Stress Bikeway. And that is for me to report on. We did receive the grant back in December. We were awarded, what did I do with that? Hold on. We were awarded $12,500 for that project. So there's a little bit of funding that we may have to make up. The funding is primarily for the curb cut for the pathway that goes through Highland Acres to Mariners Retreat on Seagull. We did have a closeout, well, we did a closeout meeting. I'm not sure what the status is, but with the developers. And in December, I was informed that the pathway needs to be moved a little bit because of right-of-ways and whatnot. So we had a discussion about the multi-purpose use of that. When the developers put it in, it was meant to be a walkway, not a multi-use. So the city discussed with the developers, when they have to move the walkway, can we possibly expand it to make it a little bit wider for bicycle and foot passage? And they thought that that was feasible. What we're waiting for is to get the cost estimate of the differential for them to do that. So I will have further updates on that.
Is the curb cut included in the relocation of the path as well?
Well, it will be, yes, because we have,
Okay.
that's what we have the funding for, is the safe transition from the path to the roadway.
Correct. And that curb cut is only on Seagull, isn't it? It's not over, correct?
Correct. It's just on the Seagull side. It's a same level transition on the Highland.
Correct. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
You're most welcome.
Has the path been dedicated to the city of Lewis, or is it owned by the development?
At this point, it's still with the developer, but it'll all be turned over to the HOA. So that's why we're working with the developer to be able to have that work done.
So the HOA will be responsible for the upkeep of the path then?
I believe so. I can find that out for certain, John, but I believe so.
And, okay.
All right.
Any other questions? Okay. Our second item under old business is C2 crosswalk signage at Savannah Road. I'm not privy to what the previous discussions were on that, so I will leave that to you to perhaps, Bob, you can address that.
If you look at the November minutes under old business, Don stated there was a discussion in September meted by the residents regarding lighting. So that's where I think the crosswalk discussion came from. And I'm not sure where that went or where that is now, what Don's thoughts are where that moved. And if it is indeed even moving anywhere.
Tim, is that the crosswalk by the Buttery? Is that, do you recall having that
I'm
discussion?
wondering,
That would be the only crosswalk there. If it's on
Yeah.
Savannah at Second.
Yeah, and
Right.
I think, I don't know if you did, I thought, recall you going out there at some point with Austin maybe, or someone from BPW, or no?
if that is in fact what that line item is in the agenda, Yes, I did meet with Austin on site, and I also met with a representative of DelDOT. And we spoke about that crosswalk and the problems with the existing design, including the lighting issue affiliated with the crosswalk. Are the,
Where that stands
was
at
a
this stage of the game?
Solution offered
well,
up.
I'm sorry.
Where is it moved at all? Or is anything happening on that score or?
Well, I'm waiting to hear back from the DelDOT representative who met with me in the field. He was to speak with his supervisor and get back with me. I have nothing else to really report at this point in time, but it is something that I'll work on and try to have that for you during our next, I think Janet suggested that we might have a special meeting. I'll work towards having an update on that.
Also, what happened to, we were asking for those silent policemen in some of the crosswalks on Savannah?
So
Yeah,
I talked with maintenance, and at least one was hit by a vehicle, and I think beyond salvage. And then a base, they didn't have a base for, so I'm not sure that either of them are operable at this point.
We had talked about adding them to several of the crosswalks on Savannah.
correct. Right. And you talked, and we also, the council acted on that recommendation, as I recall. Is that your recollection, Andrew? Andrew?
I think Andrew's screen is frozen.
Yeah, I'm sorry. My internet's very unstable. It's saying, yeah, I recall voting to approve those silent policemen
Right.
as a council. So I don't know if they were ordered or not, frankly.
I can certainly look into that and be able to report that. There's Chip, you got the video.
It popped on all of a sudden.
The wonders of the internet.
Yeah.
I will check on the status of that and see if those were ordered.
If you take a look at September's minutes, item 3, there's an item about crosswalk signage that you might want to include in chasing down what happened. There's a number of other crosswalks listed there that
Right.
we're seeking attention, and my guess would be it got punted off to DelDOT, but I don't know.
No, that's, yeah.
I'll follow up. You said item 3 on the September minutes, right?
Old business on the September minutes.
Okay. I will take care of that. Any other discussion on that?
Just to bring up a point about the crosswalk signage, and I have what Bob was referring to under number 3 there also. I don't know if anybody's been down Rehoboth and noticed that they put up the blinking lights on Rehoboth Avenue at many heavily traveled pedestrian areas. And I don't know if that's something that we may want to think about in addition to signage, or either going further than signage. We do know that Canary Creek Bridge in September of 23 will be shut down. So Savannah Road will once again be absorbing a mass amount of traffic. And it's just something that, as we think ahead, because I know that's not going to be an overnight process, you know, just as an idea, And one place that I would look at would be at the DeVries Circle, Savannah Road. They're located by the schools. It's where people are first coming into town, and their rate of speed there is far more substantial than when later on. And it's just an idea. It's just something as we talk about pedestrian safety, if this is something that we may want to look at.
Okay.
Hey, Chip, can I ask you a quick question about this?
Yes, sir.
What was the location again in Rehoboth where the blinking lights have been installed? I want to write this down.
I don't want to tell you wrong, Tim. I want to say there's one there almost across where the Culture Pearl is, whatever that intersection is.
Okay,
I don't know if that's
close enough. That's close enough. I can find that.
and
I think.
there's actually another one further down, and it may be down in the area of where the Dogfish is.
Okay, thank you. I'll look for it. Thank you.
No.
Any
And
other?
Tim, is the contact that you made with DelDOT, would that person also have be in a similar role to ask about these types of things, as if Lewis was interested in this type of equipment? Does he handle that type of thing as well, as far as?
I believe so. Yes, I believe that is, I believe he could facilitate that discussion. Yes. Yep, I'll put that, I'll include that in my follow-up, okay?
Yeah, just whether it requires a study or, how those things, are determined.
Right, sure.
Any other comments on the signage on Savannah?
No.
Okay.
Good.
Then under new business, item D1, discussion and possible action regarding recommendations of use of e-bikes on the bike trails within the municipal city limits of Lewis. We have included on the agenda the Delaware Code and definition of e-bicycles. I think that with the continuing construction of the Lewis Georgetown Trail and the connectivity of the bicycle trails, we will see more usage coming into the city of Lewis. We have a fairly new e-bike rental retail store here in Lewis. And I have seen more e-bikes around town and on the trails. And they certainly are able to propel quicker than most of the recreational man-powered bicycles. So it certainly is worth reviewing. So I will turn that over for discussion.
So we would be putting speed limit signs on a trail for e-bikes, or?
That could be a recommendation. I think, there's a relatively small portion of the trail that is in the city limits. And if the county doesn't have a comparable signage or policy, it would certainly, we would have to consider how to enforce it, what that would take as far as staffing, that those are all considerations, and how the message would get out if, there was a proposal to have a speed limit on the part of the trail that's within the city.
Ask you a question. Are there, an e-bike is a motorized bike, so it seems like there's some is a motorized vehicle, I would say, and does there need to be, excuse me, does there need to be clarification on terms of what that aspect of it? I would be for a speed limit for e-bikes, first of all.
The state has a speed limit
Yeah.
for e-bikes. There's a power rating that if they can't go above and still be considered a recreational bike. So I mean, I guess everything would have to be whatever the state says the speed limit is or the power is for an e-bike to be a recreational bike.
So of course, those state limits are in effect in Lewis now.
They're in
So-
effect all over Delaware. In other words, when you buy a bike, it's got to be a certain power wattage or like under a certain wattage to be
Right.
considered recreational, and you don't need any special permits or licenses or tags, you know?
I guess I would like to go to the state rules and look at those to understand what's in place first before.
If I may, at this point, I think we included Title 21
Yep.
of the Delaware Code. Item 5 currently defines in the state code what a bicycle is. And that's what's currently in effect. And the term, real quick, the term bicycle includes 2 or 3-wheeled vehicle with fully operable pedals, an electric motor of less than 750 watts, which is 1 horsepower, has a maximum speed on a paved level dry surface, I guess is what it says, with a 170-pound person at 20 miles an hour. What is also something we need to consider and was not included in the packet. The House of Representatives back in 2000 passed HR 19 or House Bill 19. I don't know if, is anybody else familiar with it? Has anybody else read it?
I am not.
Okay, it's a 4-page bill. I've got it on a PDF. I'll be happy to email it to anybody that wants it. The first page redefines what an e-bike is. It breaks it down into 1, 2, 3, 4, basically, well, 3 categories, class 1, 2, and 3. Each one,
Right.
I'm not going to read each definition, but each one becoming more and more powerful. It also stipulates that e-bikes can be operated anywhere that a bicycle can be operated.
Right.
And it also at that point, and it also goes into what municipalities can do to restrict e-bikes on trails that are under the maintenance of and within the jurisdiction of a civil authority, of the local authority. What I understand is that has not yet passed the Senate. So it's in limbo out there. There's a lot of stuff in it. I mean, it's not a huge amount of paperwork. It's 4 pages, but it might behoove us to check with Ernie and or Steve Smith and figure out what the latest progress of that bill is through the Senate. The copy I have printed and made a PDF of, I got from some state website, was actually released in December of 2020. So for more than a year, it's been in the governmental mill somewhere. But if we were to make a recommendation and the city council were to do something at this point, it may all change if the Senate adopts House Bill 19 and then the governor signs it, because there are, like I said, there's restrictions what local authorities can do. The only thing they can blanketly do is it says here, a local authority or state agency which has jurisdiction over a bicycle or a multi-use path may prohibit the operation of class 3 bikes, e-bikes, which they're the ones that go 28 miles an hour.
Right.
But the class 1, class 2, you have to hold a public hearing if you want to restrict those. But that's something that may come up in the future. That might be something we need to talk about or look at or have knowledge of before we start making a lot of recommendations or thoughts or ideas.
Could we set a speed limit on the path for everything, like at 15 or 12 miles an hour, and say that's all you can do on the path, no matter what you're operating?
No.
I don't know the answer. I don't think so.
Well,
I don't know.
John,
I-
why would we, so, well, I don't know. if
Well, in
that
other
would-
words, if you know you can't go over 12 miles an hour, then e-bikes would have to like watch their speed because they have the controls to see how fast they're going. So I doubt a regular bike would be doing more than 12 to 15 miles an hour on a path.
Well, I would be unhappy if I had to not go over 12 miles an hour when I'm riding my road bike on the path. So I mean, the paths are for bikes to go at bike speed, I assumed, and be nice to pedestrians. And right, I mean, I'm not sure what it would seem like it would be an imposition to bikers if you did a speed.
I don't see how it is because I don't think the average biker goes that fast.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I can go that fast these days, but I used to. But I'm saying, have we had issues? Have there been complaints and issues? Is there a problem that we're dealing with, or is it a potential problem that we're looking at?
Well, we had talked about in other meetings that there is a speed limit somewhere and there's a sign somewhere on the path that says a certain speed on the path. Because it is multiple use. It's not a racing track for bicycles.
Understood. But my question, are there issues or problems that we're dealing with now, or is this like a future, you know, we're anticipating as bike gets bigger and more people have e-bikes, I would think, you know, there'll be a lot more on the trail, but so far it hasn't been.
Right. I think it's more of a future.
Yeah.
Because the sales of e-bikes are really skyrocketing.
Oh, yeah.
And they're the predominant bikes sold now, I think, you know, so I think more and more, you're gonna have a lot more e-bikes on these paths. And if you have 50 e-bikes trying to go as fast as they legally can, you know.
Yeah, agreed.
And Glenn, we have actually gotten some complaints through email from people about speed, you know, speed of bikers on the paths. For as councilman, I have anyway.
I
So-
can't speak for the city. I don't know that we've gotten any specifically. And Mary Roth in the Q&A asked that very same question. Has the city been receiving communications regarding issues with the e-bikes? I, you know, can certainly investigate that further, but I am not aware of any that have come through the city.
Guys, if I could just have like 30 seconds, I realized I didn't do much of an introduction. I'm happy to be on the committee with y'all and hope to make some impact as we go along and learn what we're doing. I've been in town about just over 4 years now, and I was talking to the mayor and wanted to help out in the town a little bit, and I realized the bike riding a bike through town here is one of the nice things about Lewis, and want to just help maintain that. So glad to be a part of the group.
Welcome.
Thank you, Glenn.
Lord. I'm looking at the Q&A now. It looks like Sumner Crosby put a link to the state government for HB 19, if anybody wants to pick it up there, or
Thank you.
if anybody wants me to email them a PDF, just let me know.
Right.
You can email me one.
Please, Robert.
Else,
Me also.
I will, go ahead.
Chip.
Yes,
Okay. All right. So
thank you.
Gentlemen or folks, I happen to have a copy of the MOU between DelDOT and the city of Lewis. This is the maintenance of the multi-use trail, and it's dated October 11th, 2021. And within this MOU, it does state clearly that motorized vehicles are prohibited on the trail. So if the e-bike or any e-bike is considered a motorized vehicle, it seems that the MOU that we have with the state would prohibit the use of those bikes on the trail. The other thing I'll mention to you is, I'll bring to your attention, is that in an agenda item report that was I believe this came from October 2020. I'm sorry, October 2020. That the description of the speed limit for the trails were, it describes it as low speed cycling around 10 miles per hour within the city limits, or especially within the city limits, it says. And that was a agenda item report that was provided to City Council for their October 2020 regular meeting. So if we have bikes, if we have e-bikes, motorized bikes using the trail, and if they're traveling at higher than 10 miles per hour, it seems that it's not compatible with the advice that we've been, and the agreement that we have in place between the city and DelDOT.
So what is that document that you were reading from, Tim? That you were referring to?
I'm reading from a memo of understanding between the city of Lewis and Delaware Department of Transportation for maintenance and multi-use trail.
Mm-hmm.
And it's dated October 11th, 2021. And I believe this is an executed agreement or a MOU.
So will DelDOT put speed limit signs up on the path then?
Never seen any.
I haven't seen any anywhere.
I was
myself.
forwarded, I think it was there was a.
There's a
letter to the
sign,
editor.
there's a sign up.
Letter to the editor in the Cape Gazette a month or two ago requesting more signage. I was forwarded a copy or a picture of signs which have extremely small print, an inch, 3/4 an inch high. No way you're going to read it when you're riding a bike. But down at the bottom, if I remember correctly, it set a speed limit of 12 miles an hour.
Right.
I was gonna mention that, Bob. There's a sign up by Old World, and exactly, you have to basically read the whole sign to come
Yeah.
down to the last bit that says they want you to, I think it's 12 miles an hour is exactly right. Yeah.
Right.
On the
And I
one
think that
hand,
really speaks. Go ahead.
I'm just saying, on the one hand, you've got a memorandum of understanding that says 10. You've got a sign that says 12. You've got an MOU that says no motorized vehicles. And at the same time, you look at Title 21 and it does define a e-bike with certain limitations as a bike.
Right.
So it's kind of as clear as mud.
Yeah, how
But I
about
think
that?
this probably gets into the whole issue, and maybe Officer Moyer can speak to this, is at the end of the day, you also have to enforce it, and who's out there doing that,
What
The other point that I'd like to make is that I think it's very difficult for the city of Lewis to have rules that are not similar, if not identical, to those rules that are used in the county portion of the trails.
Right.
I think this would be very onerous for us to enforce and to regulate. So I would suggest that we need to, reach out to the other municipalities where the bike trail touches, and possibly also the county where it's just county that the trail cuts through, and enlist some support from them to have some conformity and uniformity in these kinds of issues, about the bikes, the type of bikes, and the speed. It's just a suggestion I'd like to make.
Sounds like it. What is the purpose of this memo of understanding? I mean, it's not, is it a rule? Is it a rule? Is it saying suggestion, or we expect, or what is the just?
I was not present when this was drafted. I don't know the genesis of it. And If I did know it, I cannot recall it at this point in time.
Right, thanks, Tim.
But I can't explain that, Glenn. I got this documentation, I believe, during a city council meeting.
I guess I agree with,
Memorandums of understanding are generally agreements when there's, for example, like leased property or special use on property that's owned by someone, another entity. So if, just as an example, the Lewis Dog Park has, you know, the leased land in the park. We have leased land in park and have memorandums of understanding that both parties agree to do certain things that are stipulated in the memorandum of understanding.
okay,
So they're different for every situation, but they're fairly typical when entities are coming together for a common cause and common use of property.
okay. Thank you. I'm just learning about local government, but I think understanding
It's
what,
painful.
doing research on what the, you know, rules in place probably, so we understand this as clearly as that can be, is probably a good idea before we make any others. But what, so it's county, what are those jurisdictions that we would have to be looking at to what are, like you mentioned county? And
Well,
this-
for the parks, but because the bike trail goes through various jurisdictions, county and other municipalities, I think
Right.
that's what Tim was recommending, is to kind of collaborate and coordinate
Right.
continuous use along the multi-use trail, right?
And
So that,
Mary Roth is, you know, on tonight. I think the other thing that's in mind with that is if we have signage and someone else has signage, you clutter it with sign. I think there's some concern too about the consistency of what you're doing and the theme and, you know, all those things to consider as well. So I think Tim makes a good point around
And
coordination
Glenn,
and, you know, again, the idea we talked about. Go ahead, Tim. Yeah.
I was just going to say, to answer Glenn's question, to the south of us, of course, the trail touches Rehoboth, and we know that it's moving towards Georgetown, and in between us and Georgetown, there's approximately 10 to 11 miles of county land, and I don't know of any other jurisdiction except the county government that affects that, has oversight over that area. I will say, and tagging on to what Andrew was just speaking to, is the resource represented by Mary Roth and the Byways group. Byways has a keen interest in multimodal transportation, and they probably would be a tremendous resource that this committee could draw upon going forward for any kind of programs that you might be considering. It's an idea. If Mary's on the call, can you bring her up and maybe she can address that?
sure. She had a question as well, if there were specific issues that the city is experiencing on the trails, and I think it's more there. Okay, Mary, you are on and you can unmute if you have anything to add to the conversation.
Oh, gosh. Am I there? For anyone who knows me, oh, gosh, I certainly have things to add. Thanks for, don't laugh, Tim Richard. I think more than anything, from a byway standpoint, we absolutely want to engage and support this effort in whatever way it might work out. again, I asked a couple of questions about the Savannah Road crosswalk and what that looks like. And I asked that question related to the byways and Savannah Road. But from another standpoint, I represent Delaware Greenways as their executive director. Delaware Greenways is one focused on trails and other and byways engagement in the state of Delaware. And I guess, again, where I'm asking my questions here is, are there issues related to the e-bikes and what are they? And how can we look at those from a more global standpoint? So I'm not quite sure how I can support this committee, but from an organization standpoint and personally, we're happy to do that. So not quite sure what you're looking for us in this exact moment. And but we would, we've participated in low bike stress networks within communities. We are engaged in the byways, and one of those is Savannah Road, and how pedestrians and cyclists can cross that safely. So from that piece, is how we ask about the crosswalk at Savannah and Second. And then also, as far as e-bikes are concerned, what that more global piece looks like and what feedback you're getting from folks on the trails. And what does that look like? Are you getting a lot of e-bikes out there? Are you getting a lot of comments about issues that are there? And how can we bring some of that advocacy from the rest of the state to that piece? So thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
I have a question for Mary.
Go ahead, John.
Do you know on the other greenways and trails in the state, do they have posted speed limits or any restrictions on other trails and other greenways throughout Delaware?
The only speed limits quote that I'm aware of are those that DelDOT puts up that are similar to those that you're seeing on Georgetown to Lewis. So those are really the only ones that I believe are available out and about. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Mary, I have a question for you. Did you just suggest that on the trail between Lewis and Georgetown, and I assume that means on the west side of Route 1, that there are speed limit signs already posted on the trail?
Oh, you're gonna guess, you're influencing my memory here, but I'm pretty sure that, and again, someone in this meeting somewhere talked about earlier that the print is about, like a 12 font on the sign.
Right.
But I'm pretty sure there are speed limits posted out there. Maybe 15 miles an hour, maybe less than that, but I'm pretty sure they're out there. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Since you unmuted me, I'm going to jump back in again, and this is a lesson. Don't unmute me in the future. As an organization that is statewide, that is focused on trails and byways and various other things, I just want to reiterate that if there's anything we can ever do to support the work of Lewis, this committee, and anything else, please don't hesitate to ask.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
And
Thank
Sumner Crosby has put up a link for the DelawareGreenways.org, the historic Lewis Byway, in the chat. So if anybody wants to go in and grab that, they can see that there.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Okay,
Just suggest that before we meet again, each of us gets as familiar as possible and finds out where this HB 19 stands in the Senate. Like I said, when you read this thing, it'll change a whole bunch of stuff about what local authorities can do.
Does who knows, Ernie, Tim, did you mention it? Is the status of it is probably one of the, is it gonna happen? Can we get?
There's a Chamber of Commerce breakfast where the three amigos are gonna be on Thursday at the Verdon Center, so I'll note this
Yeah.
to get on them about that once. All Smick, Pete, and Ernie, all three should be at this breakfast, so we'll
Yeah,
add it to the list.
Now, is Delaware Greenway supporting that bill, Mary?
Can you tell me a
Mary?
little bit about that bill again? I'm sorry, I had dinner delivered at the same time. I apologize.
Mary, it's on the chat, in the Q&A chat, there's a link that, I think Sumner provided a link to it.
Okay, I'll take a look at that. Thank you.
okay. All right, so moving on, if there's no further discussion at this point, we'll move to item D2, which is presentation, discussion, and possible action on a resolution to begin a study on how to improve bicycle safety on Cedar Street. And there is a link to it on the agenda. It went up under the previous discussion of e-bikes, but you can see it there. This was submitted by Bob Fisher. So Bob, if you want to talk about this.
Yeah, hang on a second. My wife just decided to start printing something from upstairs. Yeah, that is a resolution that I wrote for the November meeting. And it's just, you've all read it, you've had a chance to read it. Would we like to, as a committee, make a resolution that this is what we want to recommend to the mayor and council? Because this part of that came up, I know it was discussed before, but Don sent, I assume, all of us a copy of a master plan that came out from GMB regarding parking on Cedar Avenue that in, I guess that was probably in October-ish, November, that in nowhere I saw or nowhere he saw included anything resembling a bike path, bike trail, or pedestrian considerations along Cedar Avenue.
Didn't the parking commission about a month ago have a meeting on that, on the parking on Cedar or something?
That was last week. There was a public, there was an open
Workshop.
what do you call it? Workshop.
Workshop. Yep.
I think that is still up, I think, until tomorrow for comment. And I
This
can't,
wasn't the whole problem. If we have a bike path, they can't get the angle parking they want on Cedar or something?
I think that might be an issue, but it could be an issue with parallel parking as well.
But I thought Don said there was enough room if they parallel park that you'd have enough room for a bike path, a designated lane. But if they angle parked in, you wouldn't be enough room.
That was the premise for the resolution. It is the belief that if you use the whole right of way on Cedar Avenue, you can get parallel parking on each side, a bike trail, not a huge wide one, but you can get a one-way bike trail on each side and two normal sized traffic lanes.
Right. I mean, and I thought somebody was gonna talk to the parking committee about that. Remember how we had mentioned about talking to the parking committee?
I don't know if that ever happened. I have no idea.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I don't know either, so just asking. That's all.
On the maps that were presented for the beach parking workshop, they showed parallel parking along Cedar, and it's Cedar Street, Bob, that shows all four wheels of a vehicle off of the pavement. And there was a big discussion about whether that was accurate or not, because that would leave your shoulder there now as a bike lane, if that were to be the case. But there was a great discussion whether that would be the actual case. Again, the public workshop was a public workshop. The comments go, I believe, Janet, they go through the 28th.
Right.
Yes,
At
and there,
I think it is right.
4 or 4:30.
right,
And then the committee or whoever, it will be presented to mayor and city council at the February meeting. And then they'll have some kind of idea of what they may or may not do. As you know, right now, most vehicles that park on Cedar usually have two tires on the pavement and 2 tires in the sand because it's not wide enough to accommodate vehicles. But literally on the maps, it showed all 4 tires off of the pavement. But again, it's a topic of discussion. There is room, there's the right of way, and it's Del Dot Road. And my understanding was that it has to go through Del Dot to reclaim the right of way to pursue this.
right. And I don't know that there has been communication between the city and Del Dot. I've heard recommendations to do so, but I don't know that it's been done.
Well, again, on Bob's resolution, and he puts it in, you did a great job on that, Bob, by the way. It's very well put together, very well. It says under therefore be it resolved, the committee recommends that the mayor and council reach out to all appropriate agencies and city committees to begin a study on how to improve cycling safety on Cedar using the ideas above and any other measures. So one of the appropriate agencies would be Del Dot. So that's what we're asking the city to do, the feasibility of this. And it also needs to go out to the parking committee and anybody else that would be involved in this issue. And again, Bob, that's a great resolution that you put together there.
So is there a motion to accept the resolution and move it forward to council?
I motion to accept the resolution and move it forward.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay. Is there any further discussion?
I just do want to make the one point that I said to Bob. To my knowledge, and correct me, Andrew or Tim, it is Cedar Street. And I know on the resolution, it does say Cedar Avenue, and I think that's, it may be a mute point or not, but if we're
Might
going
be
to be
worth it,
correct.
correct? Yeah, maybe when we put the resolution forward, if it's accepted by this committee to recommend to council, maybe we do just make that slight, if you want to make that maybe as an amendment, Chip, in the
In your motion.
motion, to just make that just make a friendly amendment just to change that.
Yeah, that is correct, though, that it is Cedar Street. Tim, Andrew?
I believe that's,
Yeah.
I believe that's
so.
correct.
I mean,
happy to
let's look
stand
up,
corrected,
Google never
whatever,
lies.
whatever needs to be done.
Yeah, it's Cedar Street. So yeah, you can make amendment just, and then that way the document that comes before us is buttoned up. Yeah, it doesn't prevent you from voting on it tonight. Yeah.
I make the friendly amendment then to change Cedar Avenue to Cedar Street on the resolution.
Okay. Are there any other corrections or amendments that need to be made? Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 The one thing I would say is, when this gets on our agenda, which probably would be this coming month, I would imagine this next February, is just if we have the special meeting between then, maybe if the new chairman will maybe present this and give a little bit of background. We can always do that as council people. I think it's powerful when the people from the committee are at the meeting and introduce the resolutions. So give a little context.
February council meeting is the 14th. So we'd have to have the meeting for the nomination of the committee chair before the 7th, because that's when the agenda would be made for council.
I mean, we could or we could just, a representative from this committee could agree to present it. Yep. I think it is useful, at the committee, when we are getting something from a committee, just to get the introduction from the committee itself is useful.
Okay.
So we don't need to decide tonight. Maybe someone can agree to show up and sort of talk, be prepared to talk about it, give some background to it, etc. Yeah.
Okay. Bob, do you want us to make the changes and formatting here at City Hall so it's consistent with other resolutions?
Certainly,
Pardon?
that's format I used in another organization.
Okay, So you're
Send
okay
some
with-
emails, do whatever you want with it.
don't tell me that, Bob. Don't tell me that.
Careful there, Bob.
No,
I will, yeah, I'll have those corrections made and send it out to everybody for approval. How's that?
Okay.
Sounds good.
mhm.
All right. That brings us to the end of our agenda for this evening. Should we discuss a potential date for the special meeting?
Would that be the only thing on the agenda? Would just be to select a chairperson?
Probably.
I mean, I don't know about you folks, but we, if it's long, it's in the next week or two. To be fair, it could take 10 minutes, right?
Right.
We could.
Do we,
And it's going to be virtual anyway, so
Correct.
we could do.
Yep. Yeah.
But there's got to be a public notice, right? You have to post
There
that
has
somewhere?
to-
Right, 7
It has to be
days.
at least 7 days from today. Yeah, exactly.
Right. So
Right.
I have the city calendar up. Is everybody tied to an evening meeting? I mean, if it's a
No.
very brief 10 minutes.
Exactly. That was sort of the point I was getting at, is if it's going to take 10 or 15 minutes, we can all, I
Yeah.
think, be fairly flexible around that, right?
could I
Right.
ask you a question? Are we required to have a separate meeting for that? Or is there someone who's expecting to be, can we just resolve it now?
Well, it was.
Unfortunately, there's
Go ahead,
like,
Andrew.
now that you're a public committee member, Glenn, to have everything needs to be done in the public eye, and it involves
Okay.
also notice and so FOIA, which is Freedom of Information Act, all these things that require that you post, have a timely post, and you'll have to have it in the paper and all these other things.
Okay, thought I'd just ask. Thank you.
I like the way you think, though, Glenn.
Absolutely.
And I want to bring to everyone's attention that next Wednesday is February 2nd, correct? And that's Groundhog Day. So if we ever get tired of, or ever think that we've dealt with these issues before and they keep coming back, maybe we should have that meeting on, maybe not on Wednesday of next week.
I know Friday the 4th, Tim, Andrew, and I are tied up in budgets, so that won't work. It looks like the 3rd, there's a meeting at 6 o'clock at night, but I don't see anything on the calendar other than that meeting.
How about like 10 o'clock in the morning? Can you do that,
I can't do mornings. Well,
guys? Oh, can't, okay.
Okay.
well, maybe 9 o'clock. I can do probably, well, not next week, actually, no.
Or what about, John, what about something like 3 o'clock in the afternoon?
Sure, anything.
I have to check. Depends on what's on February 3rd. You want it 3 in the afternoon?
Does that work for folks?
It's an idea.
Let
Good
me,
here.
I'm good.
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 For me,
hold on, I'm checking. The 3rd, 3 o'clock, you said?
Well, actually, just give me 1
Right.
minute. Let me check my calendar. I'm not sure about next week.
Which Davis has a new tenant moving in that day.
Yeah.
You got to be there for that.
I told
Can't
them,
wait.
I heard they're rowdy.
Chip,
that
were you-
my- So those, I'll let you, in the inside joke, my in-laws are gonna be renting Coach Davis's place in the Bastion building. They're all excited about it. They're older couple downsizing, convince them to do it, so
Okay,
they're excited. Yeah.
I hope they love it.
February 3rd, I can do 3 PM. I could also do 9 AM that day if you want, if that's better for everybody.
Either's good for me.
Yep, it's good for either.
one,
Good
take
for
your
me.
pick.
Yeah, right?
So what time are we doing then?
You want to do 3 o'clock?
3 o'clock, okay.
Okay.
Decision.
February 3rd, right?
Yep, February
Right.
3rd at 3 o'clock. I will have the agenda posted, hopefully tomorrow. That'll be just the one item. That'll put us
Okay,
right about at a week before, so.
great.
So that'll work, and I anticipate it being a long meeting.
And you guys have all week to campaign to see who's the chairman.
But when we can't
See
legally
who can dig
contact
the
each
deeper
other, can
hole
we?
the fastest.
That's right.
Hide.
Excellent.
So it is 7:06. If there's no further business, we will adjourn the meeting. Is there
I'll
a
make a
motion?
motion to adjourn.
Thank you,
Second.
Chip. A second?
I second it.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Right.
Aye.
Welcome, Glenn.
Thank you.
Welcome, Glenn.
Look forward to doing
Yeah.
some good work with you guys.
Thanks, Glenn. Good questions tonight. You'll get in the groove.
Okay, now, thank you.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good
Thank
night.
you.
Good night. Thank you.